are discussing the 612 performance review. Assistant Superintendent Lisa Velius will be presenting along with the administrative team 612. So Lisa, I'm going to turn it right over to you.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody for giving us the opportunity tonight. We have some highlights to share and some growth areas that we want to discuss. The administrators are going to kind of pop in and out over there, playing a little bit of musical chairs. So similarly to the K-5 presentation, we're going to do a 3-year look back and look at some Alliance cohort trends. We're going to talk specifically about disaggregated performance for our multilingual learners and our exceptional learners. We're going to look at some noticings that are informing curricular work this year and moving forward, and connections to some of our internal data measures that we use to monitor progress. So at the last meeting, when Adam presented, we talked a little bit about comparisons to different Alliance districts, and I just wanted to share again which districts those are that are in our demographic reference group and also Alliance districts, and what the variables are that contribute to those designations. So DIRGs are formed based on a number of factors, not just the economic conditions in the town. It's median income, but it's also the occupations of the adults, the education level of adults in the community, the home language. The district enrollment, DIRG designations are based on families who have school-age children, poverty level, and family structure. And these districts are the districts that we'll be using for comparison. So I'm going to move somewhat quickly through these slides. These slides represent the comparison of our performance on Smarter Balanced last year in grades 6 through 8 over the last 3 years compared to the DIRG cohort mean score. So as you can see with grade 6 math, we outperformed the DIRG for the last 3 years in math. In grade 7, we had a bit of a dip last year, but not unlike the state's average in this grade level. And in grade 8, again, we outperformed the DIRG last year, the DIRG average. I think it's important to spend a little bit of time thinking about the groups of schools that are like us in this area when we're looking at performance, who deal with many of the similar challenges that we deal with. In ELA, you can see our 6th grade team did a great job last year, and we had a pretty significant growth last year. 7th grade, again, was an area of difficulty. And 8th grade ELA, it rebounded again. So similar performance in math and language arts. So we've talked repeatedly about student mobility, and I want to talk about student mobility as it impacts the class of 2025, our senior class. So we've talked about the longitudinal impact of time in district and how our students perform when they've been with us for long periods of time. And going through the class of 2025, our current seniors, 49% of this class was with us from 3rd grade straight through 11th grade. So we've lost 51% of those students that started with us and tested with us in 3rd grade have not made it straight through to 11th grade. 46 of our 3rd grade testers in this class of 2025 cohort did not enroll at JMMS. But you wouldn't necessarily know that looking strictly at enrollment numbers, because JMMS also gained 49 new students that year before 6th grade began. So there wasn't a great net change in the population number size, but it was a significant change to the enrollment. Between 6th grade and 8th grade, they gained an additional 32 students. So in 8th grade, which was 21-22 for this group, 40% of the students that tested with us in grade 8 had joined us between 6th grade and 8th grade. So of that 49% of the class of 2025, the senior class, Those that have been with us since third grade, testing with us since third grade, 46% of those met or exceeded the SAT benchmark in at least one area, either in reading or math, and many in both. So I want that shared as some context setting for how we look at these groups of students as we start to talk about Smarter Balanced and SAT. The changeability in the population doesn't mean that we don't expect all students to grow from year to year, but you are looking at students that are joining us. We don't always know the situations that they're facing in the districts they're in or what instruction looks like there. And it's one of the areas that we know we need to do a better job at, which is supporting new students as they arrive to East Haven. So we're going to start with Smarter Balanced assessment in math. And you can see performance, and you're going to see this kind of as a trend, that the sixth grade group last year performed relatively strongly. We have far fewer students in that red area where they're not meeting any benchmark, and little over 32% of those students that were proficient or above. And this combines the academy and the middle school. There we go. Okay, this is our multilingual learners, and this particular group of students makes up 17% of the total population at JMMS and 10% of the total population, tested population at EHA. And again, you can see we have real opportunities with this sixth grade group with a much larger percentage in that yellow band where they're really primed to be moving forward. And our special education population, where we know we have some work to do to reach those students differently in the regular ed environment, where there are many of them in co-taught classes or in supported classes where they maybe just need a little more attention to the various learning needs that they have. So again, looking at the percentages, this is 15% of the total population at JMMS and 17% of the total tested population at EHA. So looking at the Smarter Balanced scores, the scores are the scores. We're not satisfied with where they are, and we know we have a lot of work to do to try to continue to raise the scores, particularly on Smarter Balanced. But we wanted to look at iReady as well, simply because this is one of the measures we're using internally to look at the work students are doing on an individualized basis to make growth based on their own personal needs. So students take that diagnostic 3 times a year. They start with grade level content when they do their first diagnostic, and then they're put on their personalized pathway. And these numbers show the students that met their typical growth and their stretch growth last year. But I think what was telling about it was we could see that our students were really hitting the time targets for their personalized training last year. We've been doing a lot of work on this at the middle school in WIN class, working on providing students the guidance that they need to make sure that they're completing their training at home, and they were either meeting or exceeding the required number of minutes at each grade level. And when they do, the numbers at the bottom here in the 80s show you the percentage of lessons that they're passing as they move through those lessons. So they're not just participating in these lessons and managing the time aspect, but they're also passing the lessons. Areas for most growth in 6 through 8. I think what I wanted to note was that as you look at the way the standards are laid out for 6 through 8, as they move through these math standards, it's now beyond the idea of foundational understanding of the math, and they need to apply conceptual understanding. So it's conceptual understanding of ratios and proportions, applying and extending algebraic concepts. In 7th grade, in concepts and procedures, analyzing proportional relationships, extending understanding of fractions, increased demands in conceptual understanding in 8th grade. And I highlight that because when students are struggling with some of the foundational skills, or they don't have the same kind of fluency in math, analyzing, extending, applying and extending advanced conceptual understanding is going to be even more of a challenge. So working on those foundational skills and the work that Adam is doing with the elementary team is really going to start to pay off, we hope, in the future, where they come in with a really solid foundation in these skills so that they can begin to extend and apply that understanding. I also looked at the performance of the students that are in the advanced classes in 7th and 8th grade, and in those courses in accelerated math in 7th and 8th grade, between 72 and 94% of those students were at level 3 or 4 on Smarter Balanced. So the students that are taking that, receiving that advanced instruction and are showing us that they're ready for that are doing remarkably well. So another, I don't want to call it an obstacle, but another challenge that we've faced, and this is not unique to East Haven or to teachers, is when we have teacher mobility. And we have had a lot of teacher mobility and a lot of inexperienced teachers in math over the last 5 years. So in the year that we shifted home during the pandemic, 2019-2020, there were 3 first-year teachers teaching math at JMMS. So they had been on the job for less than 6 months and then were teaching from home virtually. And 5 additional teacher leaves in the past 5 years at JMMS or EHA, either maternity leaves or leaves for illness, but extended leaves from the classroom. And sometimes we have certified teachers that we can put right into a classroom, but more often than not, those students are either with a substitute or they're with a building sub until we can find another certified staff person that can take over in that time. And I don't have the same slide for the high school, but there were 5 additional maternity and other medical leaves at the high school during that 5-year period. So I bring this up again for context. When a language arts teacher is out, there's still a big impact on students, but students get reinforced language arts instruction in social studies, in every other content area where they're asked to read and engage in reading and writing tasks. When you have a math teacher that's out, it's a lot harder for them to get any kind of reinforcement in math instruction outside of that one area. So this has been a particular concern, and it's one of the greatest shortage areas in the state of Connecticut. So when you do have a teacher out, it's much, much more difficult to find somebody that can come and fill in for 6 or 8 or 10 weeks at a time. Our next generation science standards. We've had very stable performance in science moving from 5th grade to 8th grade. All the scale scores were within 5 scale score points from their 5th grade to 8th grade. So we didn't outperform their performance in 5th grade, but we also didn't see any kind of dips. So we were at about 30% students proficient or above on science. Our multilingual learners, again, this is a really great opportunity for us in science. And you would think science would be really challenging for multilingual learners, just given the difficulty of the vocabulary. But we have a lot of students, a lot of English learners that were in this yellow approaching area, 36%. So those students, again, are really ready, and maybe the hands-on nature of science or those connections to the natural world that they see are really providing them some motivation, because this is a place where they did really step up and perform. Special education, also, this was a higher area for them than math was. But again, we have some work to do here to support our learners in the classroom. Noticings here, in science, we had many of the same patterns that were present in the science scores for the elementary school. Biological evolution, the life sciences, is an area where there's an overall need, and this energy area was the overall strongest area in K-5, and it remained a strong area for 6-8. So again, just a moderate increase in proficiency year over year, but definitely an opportunity for us with the larger percentage of MLs in that approaching category. And in science, we had a similar experience with teacher mobility. We had 3 science teachers teaching with emergency certifications that were outside their main content area. So people that stepped in and were willing to make sure that they were able to provide instruction in an area of need. We've had great difficulty finding chemistry teachers and physics teachers, and we've had teachers who were, that was not necessarily their primary area of science certification, who were teaching those classes for us. We had 4 teaching under a durational shortage area permit, which means that the teacher was not yet fully certified, but stepped in and began teaching in advance of their certification being completed. And we had 3 retirements or job changes that occurred during the school year in science in the last 5 years. So again, a lot of changeover in a highly specialized area that's difficult to find substitutes for. And English language arts. Again, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade performance, some improvement here year over year. We definitely, again, this 6th grade group, almost 44% proficient and above. This was a real strong area, but improved performance overall. 7th grade was the group that needed, come on. Our multilingual learners, English and language arts, the reading test is really a very challenging area for them. There's a lot of very technical vocabulary and difficult reading passages for them. I am going to show a little bit of the loss scores later and show how their performance on the loss is really very different than their performance on the smarter balanced. But reading was a real area of concern. For our special education students, actually, the ELA test was their area of greatest strength last year. Similar to math, the iReady scores, students, many students in 8th grade reaching their stretch growth goal last year, which is a really important thing because those students, when you start meeting your stretch growth, are really closing that gap. And students here as well, the recommended number of minutes is between 30 and 45 minutes of training every week. So they're hitting their training targets and passing lessons. Any percentage above 70% is what the target is for iReady, because they want students to be facing some challenge when they're doing those lessons. Otherwise, they're not in an area where they're actually growing or extending. Relative strengths between the claims and ELA. We had real strengths last year in analysis within and across texts, which is an area that we've worked on a great deal in the last 5 years. Text structures and features. The lowest claim in 6-8, which was also an area highlighted in K-5 and is something that has followed students throughout through to the high school, is in grammar and English language conventions. And we know this is not reinforced by the lives that our children live. They text without punctuation. They don't use capital letters in the day-to-day communication they engage in. And then when they have to do formal writing in English, it's becoming even more of a challenge because that's not necessarily being reinforced in their day-to-day lives. So we've taken some action steps in this regard that you're going to hear about moving forward. But grammar and conventions, reading sentences and being able to identify the error that exists, and does the comma go here or does the comma go there? That was the lowest claim last year. And nuance, figurative language and vocabulary use, that was also a low claim. And again, that's something that students develop more the more that they read. And so you really have to be engaged in reading all the time on your own to really develop those kinds of language skills. So between 90 and 100% of students that are in the accelerated reading classes were at level 3 or 4 on Smarter Balanced. So I wanted to highlight, we didn't talk about the lost links previously, but these slides show you the percentage of students that are, and we're just going to kind of look at the colors here. If you look at the students as they progress through the grade level, so this is 3 years, 21, 22, 22, 23, and 23, 24, from 6th grade on the top to 8th grade on the bottom. And as you can see, as the years go by, the students' language skills really are progressing. And if you look at this slide, I don't know what happened to my 912 slide. I'll make sure it gets added to the slide deck that the board has. The 912 slide shows a significant growth for our English language learners on the lost links while they're in high school, with a significant number of them really moving into that intermediate and exited status as they move through the high school, which is really our goal for them, is we want them prepared with English language proficiency to move out of the need for English language proficiency instruction and support. But when you see the growth that they're making on their lost links, and then you look at the difference between that and their performance on their reading test, you can see that it's very difficult for students to be showing us they're proficient on grade level reading standards when they still have so much to work to do just to be proficient in English and understanding the language. All right, so Christina is going to talk to us a little bit about EHA.
Hi, everybody. Ooh, is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all again. I was here a few weeks ago, and I warned you I would be back to talk about middle school. Last time I was here, I talked about elementary. So I just wanted to take a few moments to piggyback on some of the things that Lisa has already shared. So this slide right here is looking at our current 8th graders. But in particular, it's looking at our current 8th graders who have been with us since 4th grade. So you can see that there's been a kind of nice projection in their Smarter Balanced scores between 4th, 5th, 6th. We took a little bit of dip last year in 7th grade, which kind of coincides with what Lisa showed at the district level. But what's interesting, and this isn't anything new, we know that when our kids are here regularly, they show the most growth. So of our current 8th graders, I went back and we looked at our students who had 95% or higher better attendance rate in their 6th and 7th grade year. And lo and behold, that totals 26 children, of which 23 out of the 26 students scored at a level 3 or higher. Again, this is nothing new. It just, again, strengthens the point that when they are coming to school consistently every day on time, they are showing the greatest amount of growth. Looking next to math, exactly the same type of pattern. Again, this is our current 8th graders looking at those same 26 students who were 95% or better. 23 out of 26 of them were scored at a level 3 or higher. Going to our next slide. This is just to show a comparison of our current freshmen here at East Haven High School when they were at East Haven Academy in grades 5 and 8 when they took the Smarter Balanced Science portion. We were a little bit all over the board here, but I will in a minute talk about some things that we currently have in place. We did see a nice increase in students that scored at a level 3. However, you can see that we're kind of a little bit stagnant there with the students that are going even above and beyond to that level 4. So we know we've got some work there to do. There's some highlights in all of those sections. So just to kind of talk about some general things that we're doing to speak to all of this, one thing that I'm really excited about is that we this past year departmentalized grade 5. And the reason I mention that is because I think we're going to see more growth within our science scores because of that. This is the first year that we've departmentalized our grades, our 5th grade classrooms, and now I feel like we have a stronger in-house building science department. To speak to something that Lisa spoke of earlier, we started the year this year without a 7th and 8th grade science teacher, again, speaking to how difficult that is to find teachers with that qualification. but I am very excited and happy to say that we not only have a science teacher, but he is someone that comes to us with years of experience. He is a veteran science teacher, so I'm really excited to see what his addition to our staff will do to our science scores. In addition to that, this past summer, the administration at JMMS and I, we both looked at the language in our handbook, and we teamed up to develop what's called the academics only policy for our middle school students. And I wanted to bring it up because I really do see that it is making a difference. Basically what that means is that all of our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are expected to maintain a 70 or higher in all of their classes. They cannot be absent for more than 5 days per trimester. I know it's a little different for you because you have the quarters. They cannot be on social suspension, and they cannot be tardy to school more than one time a week. And if they are, they get put what's called our academic only policy, which means anything that is occurring outside of school, any activities before or after school, they are not eligible to participate the following week. I have seen a tremendous difference in our 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, not only their attendance rate, but their own accountability with their own academic progress. This was a little rough to get off the ground. There was some pushback a little bit, but I am really seeing the proof in the pudding, and I'm really proud of this. And it was a nice collaboration between the middle school and myself. In addition to that, one of our ongoing focuses in our school's theory of action, again this year, but that we began last year, was really focusing on our intended planning of depth of knowledge questioning, particularly at a level 3 and 4, because what we were seeing in the past is that our students were scoring relatively higher amongst those areas on Smarter Balance where those DOK levels at a lower level were being asked, but where we were starting to stall a little bit was when we were being asked of questions with levels DOK levels 3 or 4. So really doing a lot of intensive planning and professional learning around that with intentional planning of questioning when lesson planning. The other thing that I would like to mention is that a lot of our teachers across the district have really jumped on board with building thinking classrooms. It is also something that has been offered as a professional learning pathway this year. So even students that, or even teachers that aren't in that particular professional learning pathway are now collaborating with teachers in the building, so it's kind of becoming contagious. We've done a lot of opportunities for peer observation, so if a teacher wants to go see a building thinking classroom, whether it's across the hall or across town, we're affording them those opportunities, and it really lends to those higher order thinking skills. And then the last piece is, again, we are without that additional half hour this year. Of course, we all know that. So although we don't have the hard and fast win time that we had last year, at the middle school level, we have been able to build in what we call flex time, so that there's that built-in time for students to go, and it's very much set up the same time, same type of way as win was. So we were able to, with some creativity, kind of afford that into a student's daily schedule. That's it. Okay.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, Darcy's going to talk to us a little bit about JMMS.
All right, thank you. So to start off, just taking a quick look at our accountability index comparison from 2021 to 2024. If we take a look at the state overall, the increase was 1.1% on the accountability index, while JMMS had an increase of 6%. And we really had some areas of strength that I'm really proud of over the past few years. If you look at these areas, it will show us where we made some significant gains between 2021 and 2024. Absenteeism has decreased tremendously, which is great. Like Christina said, if we don't have students at school, we cannot teach them. We earned 0 points for chronic absenteeism for our high need students in 2021-22 school year, and we earned 51% of our points last year. The state points earned was 17.9%, and JMMS again was at 51%. So our chronic absenteeism for all students, for high need students, our physical fitness scores increased as well, as did our progress towards English proficiency, the last scores that Assistant Superintendent Bilius was talking about. Our ELA academic growth for all students and high need students are on track to high school graduation, meaning that we're preparing students for the high school. And our ELA performance index for high need students have all increased. between 2021 and 2024. If you take a look at the ones that are highlighted in green, these are areas where we exceeded the percentage of points earned by the state at JMMS, so some really strong areas of growth at the middle school. Lisa talked a lot about the mobility in the district, and when SBAC scores came in last year, I was very curious to see individual students and how those individual student scores were impacting our overall percentages. And so diving in a little bit more deeply, in the area of ELA, we started in 8th grade when kids tested. We started, in 6th grade, we had 146 students that had been with us from 6th grade to 8th grade. Our 6th grade enrollment at the time of testing was 168. Our 8th grade enrollment for that same cohort at the time of testing was 180. But if we break that down, we had 22 students withdraw and 34 students enroll at JMMS. Of the students who withdrew, 7 of those students had scored proficient in 6th grade and they withdrew. We lost that. So when we look at the overall average of proficiency, those 7 students were no longer with us. 15 students who withdrew scored below proficient. So of the students who left and came in, 32% of the students that we lost were proficient, whereas 26% of the students that we gained were proficient. So we lost some proficiency there, but we also increased from 31.54% proficient in ELA to 43.33% by the time those students got to 8th grade. It's really important that we look at each of the students and break down what their individual needs are. And so looking at that allowed us to start to make some data-driven decisions that we'll talk a little bit about. Back in 2022, we started looking at our assessment framework to look at what our classroom assessments look like to make sure that they align with what the expectation is for students when it's time for them to take the SBAC. Over the summer, the leadership team did a phenomenal job. Thank you very much to our instructional leaders for really digging into the data from SBAC, looking at each student, what their iReady score is, what their SBAC score is, and what their classroom grades are. We want to make sure that what we're teaching and what we're assessing in the classroom is aligned with what the expectations are at the end of the year. And so if there's not a correlation there, if our assessments don't align with what it is that the state is looking for, if our instruction isn't getting the kids to where we need them to be, it doesn't matter. So diving in, the ILs were able to take a look at those classroom scores, at the iReady scores, and at the SBAC scores to make sure that the scores are all aligned, basically. And if they're not, figuring out why. If we have students who are getting A's in class, but they're not showing up proficient on SBAC, the question becomes why, and what do we need to do with our assessments to make sure that our assessments are in line with what's happening and what the expectations are at the end of the year. If we have students who are not doing well in class, on their classroom averages, but they're doing well in SBAC, then we might look at a social emotional learning piece of it and figure out why the students are struggling in school, but they have the potential to be able to score well on SBAC. ILs dug into the claims and targets, deeply analyzing where the areas of strength and areas of growth are in order to start to look at the curriculum for this year, see where changes needed to be made, see where there needed to be more of a focus so that we were making sure that students were getting what they needed. Mapping of standards for reading and math for the year, some curriculum changes as to where certain units were falling within the scope and sequence for each class, so that kids are most prepared at the end of the year. There's a lot of really interesting information, I think, that came out of it, and it's really helping to drive the assessment work that we're doing, which then in turn drives the instructional work that we're doing. Things that we're doing, we know that we have areas of weakness. We know that we have areas where we've made growth that we're very proud of. But there's a lot that we're doing and that we're continuing to do and we will continue to do in order to help our students be successful. We're continuing with a 9-period schedule this year, which is an MOA with the union. As you know, the contract's written for a 7-period, working collaboratively with the teachers union in order to have a 9-period schedule to provide every student either an intervention or an enrichment for 1 period a day. We want to make sure that we're not just focusing on our students who are below grade level, but also moving our students who are on our above grade level forward is extremely important to us, obviously, also. Our WIN classes continue to be grouped homogeneously to address individual student needs. We will begin utilizing the prerequisite and scaffolding lessons in order to address specific items and areas that students need to work on in order to be more prepared for what's happening in the classroom. During our WIN classes, we're focusing on targeted instruction for what kids need, which is typically below grade level if they're in an intervention group. But we want to make sure that what we're working on with them is preparing them for what's happening in the classroom to help move them forward with their grade level work. We are implementing grade level data teams, which gives us an opportunity to review the validity of our assessments in real time. Kids take a test, we look at it, is it aligning, how are our students doing, where are we going to be doing that reteaching to make sure that we're not leaving anybody behind. And we will continue to review and revise our classroom assessments based on the information that we got from our summer data dive and using the SBAC blueprint so that we're making sure, again, that our assessments align with what it is that we're looking for at the end of the year. So we are using sample questions from SBAC in the classroom. The more exposure students have to what they're expected to see at the end of the year, the better they will do on it. So we're using those as teachable tools. We're using the interim assessments that, again, students are becoming more familiar with what's expected from them at the end of the year. There's also a cross-curricular approach being taken, thanks to Mr. Testro. He's sitting back there working with the Unified Arts Department to make sure that they are incorporating academic vocabulary into their units and into their lessons that align with what's happening in their core classes as well. And there's that intentional focus on vocabulary throughout the entire building with a shared responsibility of all departments utilizing the vocabulary progression document. So in order to address some of the weaknesses that we've been seeing, we have increased classroom walkthroughs this year to collect data on focus areas of instruction, and we're doing this in 45-day cycles. Important in this area is to make sure that we're giving timely, non-evaluative feedback, giving teachers an area where they can grow without them feeling like they're being judged, creating a culture where they are looking to become better at instruction in the classroom and grow and learn from one another. I also working regularly to guide teachers in creating engaging, differentiated lessons. Building thinking classrooms are being used throughout the building in all subject areas. We are looking to increase student discourse in order to develop critical thinking skills, communication skills, etc. And really important is creating the time and space for teachers to engage in professional learning directly related to their area of growth. So the way that teachers can each be on their own pathway this year in order to address an area that they're looking to personally grow in for professional development, I think is great. But also giving teachers an opportunity to collaborate during the school day and learn from one another is important as well. So we look at the numbers and we know that we have a lot of growth to make with students, but I think that there's a lot of growth that is happening that you can't always see. So we give the kids a test, we sit here and we look at the test scores, and we know that there's growth to make. But there has been a lot happening and a lot of growth that happens behind the scenes that's really necessary in order for us to see those test scores go up. And a few that I just wanted to bring to the table. Attendance, as you've heard, has gotten much better. For students, we are down 2% in chronic absenteeism from where we were last year, and we are down even more from where we were last month. But not only that, our staff attendance at JMMS has improved tremendously. So in pulling some information, staff attendance in September of 2024 compared to 2022 has been reduced by 51%. So just as important as it is for kids to be in school learning, it's important for our teachers to be here regularly teaching. And there's a lot of pieces that play into that. And creating an environment in which teachers feel supported, where they feel like where they're making progress and they can be successful is really important. And I think that our staff attendance speaks volumes to that. Our October attendance, again, was down almost 40% from where it was in 2022. And although we always talk about student attendance, I think that staff attendance is extremely important as well. Many enrichment opportunities have been brought into JMMS. We talked a little bit last year about during that WIN time, students who are on or above grade level are participating in enrichment activities. We are again doing National History Day, and we are also doing Future Cities. So students who are already scoring above on or above grade level get to engage in those enrichment activities. We also have an art grant this year where we have had, or we are in the process of, 180 students having an opportunity over a 4-day period to visit Yale Art Museum for some additional enrichment. We have the Educators Rising program, where we have students who are interested in being teachers, participating in Educators Rising, who will be going, I believe, next week to your building to read to some second graders and learning a little bit about teaching. So there's a lot of really great enrichment programs that are being offered to kids at JMMS, and that's just a sampling of them. In looking at communication, it's so important to create that homeschool communication, and it's extremely important to me, both as a parent and as an educator. And I've really pushed for teachers to be contacting home, whether it's good, whether it's bad. Parents need to know what's going on in school. We have had over 700 more log entries for parent communication at this time this year than we did last year. And those numbers last year were up astronomically from the year before. Now that we have Parent Square, all of those Parent Square communications aren't necessarily included in this data, but there have been over 700 more times that a staff member has reached out to a parent in the first quarter at JMMS to help improve that homeschool communication. And these are all foundational pieces that I feel need to happen in order for us to start seeing these test scores going up. As Christina talked about, we have the academics only list, raising expectations. A 60 is not okay, it's a point higher than a 59. We need to see that you're mastering what's been taught. We're here to support you. We're putting things in place to help you be successful in raising expectations across the board. Another important piece to me is creating teacher leaders. We were able to get stipends, thanks to Superintendent Forty a couple of years ago, to create some positions in the building for team leaders, and these teacher leaders have really grown over the past couple of years. And they meet with administration regularly about many different things, but they've gone back to their teams and they've begun to help shift the culture of the building, that we really have a focus on teaching and learning right now. And we're going to continue to move that forward. But when we build our teachers to become leaders, they then take that knowledge and they spread it out into the building to help other people become leaders. So I think it's really important that all of these and more, of course, are in place. And when these are in place, we'll start to see student scores rising. I think that a building is a lot more than just a standardized test score for kids, but you have to have a solid foundation in order to start seeing the growth above ground, basically. So that's where we are at JMS.
Thank you. So we're going to shift now to talk a little bit about East Haven High School. And we're going to start with SAT performance from last year. So this is the current senior class of 2025 that we talked about earlier in terms of numbers. In their SAT school day performance last year, we had 13% of students who met both benchmarks, 39% who met the benchmark in evidence-based reading and writing, and 13% who met the benchmark in math. So the benchmark in reading and writing is a score of 480, and in math it's 530. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Cohort performance for this group. So students are expected to grow approximately 40 scale score points from their junior 20 scale score points from PSAT 11 when they take the PSAT in the fall to the time that they take SAT in the spring. They're supposed to grow 40 points year over year. So from their sophomore performance to their junior performance, you'd expect a 40-point gain, and then an additional 20 points from the time that they take the PSAT in the fall to the SAT in the spring. And although they did not make the full 40 points from PSAT 10 to 11, they outperformed that growth mark going from PSAT 11 to SAT. And you can see the trend line was positive. Students were growing with each opportunity that they had to take the test. And that particular group did not have a PSAT 9 as a result of COVID. Every group after that will have had the test, will have had 3 opportunities to take the PSAT before taking SAT. So this is, again, the comparison to that same group of schools that we talked about earlier, where our students are in, our students are the first set of columns. Blue is the evidence-based reading scale score average, and math is the yellow, and the other blue is the total score. So you can see we're very similar and either in the same area or just around the same area in all areas as our DIRG group in cohort performance. We're a little bit below the state average, but we're going to talk also about that mobility issue and how that played into this, again, with this group of students. So newly added students, from the time that our class of 2025 took the fall PSAT, so fall of 2022, we had 23 new students in the 18 months between that fall of 2022 and the spring SAT in 2024, and that was 12% change in that group. 4 out of those 23 met the evidence-based reading benchmark, and 1 of those 23 students met the math benchmark. So I did an adjusted calculation on the mean score. If you removed those 23 students and any of our students that were non-participants, students that either didn't take the test, were absent, and were not available for a makeup, those still get counted in our scores. So when you looked at the raw mean score for all of the students that took our PSAT in 2022, it raised our mean score to 478 in math. State of Connecticut's mean score was 471. So we would have outperformed the mean of the state of Connecticut if you just looked at our students that were with us in 2022 in that fall, 18 months earlier. So are we ever going to not have students joining us? I don't really think that that's the point of what we're trying to share, but to look at whether or not students are actually making growth in the classes that they're taking and making growth over time when they are with us, and we can see what their performance looks like across multiple measures. Oh, I must have inserted this slide in the wrong place. That's why it wasn't there. All right, Jen's going to talk to us a little bit about some of our higher performing math students.
Just a little glow, or something to think about. While we do not have a ton of students at benchmark, as we saw 13% were at benchmark on this last administration, our students that are at benchmark, their scores are going up each year, especially looking at last year's group, 2025. When they took it in 10th grade, the average score of students at benchmark was 555. When they took it again on the school day administration, it moved up to 587. And now we have had these children now that are becoming more persistent, and it's becoming a real goal of theirs to go to college. They want to do their best. They keep retaking it. And our current average stands at 600 as a benchmark score for our benchmark students. 4 of those students were above 700. And we still have more administrations. That doesn't include the November test, and there's a bunch more signed up for December. So it just shows a trend of, again, while we don't have a lot of kids at benchmark yet, those that are at benchmark, we're giving them that education that's preparing them for college-based work. I think this can be attributed to the increased enrollment in our AP and dual enrollment courses, getting to see those same styles of questions on an AP exam that they would see on the SAT. I think that our department is continuing to focus more and more. Right now we're working on data cycles where every Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 student is working on a specific skill every month in class. We do pre-test, post-test, and lots of practice in between. And it's starting to show in the most recent PSAT, just this past October, the next year's seniors, our current juniors, the kids at benchmark, there were 28 of them, and their average benchmark score was 584, and 12 of them are already above 600. So just wanted to share some good news.
And that's the largest number of students that have taken multiple tests since we instituted school day SAT. When school day started, the numbers of students taking multiple tests just completely went away. So this is definitely the most competitive group that we've had in terms of their effort with the test.
So it seems like that we're trending upward, and they're taking it more seriously, and they want to go to college and succeed. That's a good thing.
All right, Maria's going to talk a little bit about NGSS in grade 11.
So another bright spot to share. In grade 11 last year, we continued to make growth in our science scores. We went up 4% to actually finally match the state at 47% proficient or above, and the state did not make growth last year, so we feel very proud about that. The things that we believe are contributing to our success and that we will continue to do, we really have shifted a focus on vocabulary and science, really making that visible in the classrooms. We have identified some priority standards. So in science, beyond the content standards, there are science and engineering practices, and we've really chosen 3 as our priority. So asking questions, constructing explanations, using evidence and reasoning, and analyzing and interpreting data. So we chose those as our priority, and teachers have been working diligently with students in those areas. And the college and career readiness requirement that we implemented, and I think we'll talk a little bit later about that in the presentation, but really asking students to take the test seriously because it's measuring whether they're ready to move on and whether they are college and career ready, I think has shifted their motivation for the test. So we have seen them continuously taking longer and not just clicking through the test because they just don't, what does this mean? It doesn't mean anything for me. And now we've kind of shifted that, and it does mean something, and we're seeing that they're taking, we have to allot 90 minutes for them to take the test, but they can take as long as they want, and students are really taking up to the 90 minutes. And I had a student take 3 hours. She came over multiple days just so that she could complete it and take her time and do it her way. So I really think that has been a benefit for us. And finally, our science teachers this year, pretty much all of them have set their own growth goals around NGSS style assessments, plugging in those that language and those test items into their own assessments, and really making that their focus this year as a team, so that a little bit in 9th grade, a little bit in 10th grade, so that as they are progressing, they're getting more exposure, they're using the interim assessments more readily. Beyond the 3 times that we give them 6 through 11, they're plugging them in places where they think they fit content-wise, and I really think that they've really grown a lot, and we're going to continue to make growth. It's just what I'm going to say, because we're going to stay positive. Thank you.
Okay, Erica Tamsin and Joe are going to talk a little bit about social studies and science. No, English, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. These first 3 slides that we're going to share with you are connected to the information that Lisa has presented already with our PSAT data, but we decided to drill down into 2 sections that are connected to some of the trends that we're seeing 6 through 8 and 9 through 12 as it relates to writing skills, grammar, sentence structure, some evidence-based reading. So on this first slide here, we really focused on the cohort from 2023 of fall with 10th and 11th graders for PSAT that scored below benchmark. We averaged about 60% on 2 strands, which account for 46% of the test. As far as underperforming, and if we can go to the next slide, we saw a decrease in 8% of individuals in those buckets, so shifting to the right is a positive here with an 8% decrease, moving into the approaching or above benchmark in this next slide here. So one of the strategies that we used the year prior, we had used Edgenuity last year, which was definitely making its mark with kids. It was not as differentiated or active and personalized to student needs. So this year we made an adjustment to start to utilize a new platform called Quill. We are using this outside of instructional time to complement the curricular work that we're doing, similar to the other initiatives that are going on within cross-curricular departments. We gave our first 9 through 12 diagnostic this year where all students, regardless of leveling, our special pops grades 9 through 12 as a benchmark just to see where we were as a school from a pulse point. And within a 6-week cycle, kids averaged in grades 9 through 12 approximately 2.5 hours given time spent in conjunction with their coursework. And we averaged about a 14% increase in the skill set in the first 6-week cycle to remediate some of these grammar and conventional areas that we're seeing deficiencies in. Joe will talk to some of this, and I think you heard about the work that's happening, from a 6, 8, 9, 12 vertical alignment. But to, as I just spoke to, is the quill integration that we're using to supplement. One of the neatest parts of this platform is that it's not taking away from instructional time. It's able to complement the work that staff are doing. For example, 10th grade is taking a grammar unit they traditionally would do in the spring, and it's matching with the work that kids are doing now, so they're able to adjust and adapt, so it's organic and authentic to what they're doing in the day-to-day. Slide 2 or bullet 2 there, I can skip that for now. It's continuation of work that we've been doing with alignment of the priority mapping to SAT that we've done in alignment with the vision of the graduate. But I'd really like to highlight number 3, in which the English department, in partnership with our other cross-content areas, has, in their ACT meetings, decided on their own problem of practice this year. And they went through their own data protocol without us giving what they should be focusing on, and they've identified that vocabulary acquisition is a problem of practice that we can continue to grow on. They're working on it from a 9-12 progression right now to continue to build that vertical alignment of use of academic language within our classrooms that we anticipate will set the framework for a rollout next year, not only in English, but again, across all content areas. Get over to Joe.
We have very similar priorities in social studies because our content areas are so integrated. So a lot of the work that we've been doing in the social studies department throughout the year has been in support of the ELA skills that we've identified as growth areas in both the SBAC and the SAT scores. One area where we're working is related to the social studies curriculum. I'm sure, as you heard last year, the social studies standards across the state were re-released. It was the first time they were really officially updated since the late 1990s. They've had frameworks that had been released since that time, but this is the first time in all those years that we actually have a standards document that we can work off of that links the social studies skills to the ELA Common Core standards for each grade level. So we've really been working as a department this year to map those skills to the different curriculum units and see how they can be incorporated into our different assessments. At the middle school level, we've been looking at the SBAC claims that the students have performed the weakest in throughout the past few years, and Erica and I have identified some priority areas in each grade level that we've worked with our departments to prioritize in their own assessments. We've created some formative assessments that teachers have given that are common over the course of the year that they've been able to get together and look at as a group and then come up with action steps that they can use in their classrooms as a result of that. At the high school, similarly, we've done that with the SAT and look at the skill areas where students might not have performed as strongly as others and come up with common assessments that teachers are giving and looking at on a regular basis to determine instructional priorities, and then meeting to look at that data and revise their instruction further from that. I know Erica talked about the goal diagnostic and lessons that students are doing in language arts. That's actually something that we are looking into in social studies as well, because they have added a social studies component to that. It's brand new though, and we haven't really developed a plan as to how that will look in social studies, but at least in 9th grade, we see some opportunities to build that into the curriculum there as well.
Thanks, Joe. Erica? Do you want to talk about these? Or you want?
Sure.
Okay. So Mr. Donoso is going to jump in and talk about some of the school-wide initiatives for EHHS.
Good evening. So thank you, and it's good to see everybody again. So you obviously have heard a great deal tonight from our colleagues, the instructional leadership team, obviously what's going on down in middle school. And we're looking to build on that momentum that is happening at the middle school level. One of the first things we started this year in an effort to align ourselves with the work that's happening 6-8 is to start to roll the assessment framework up 9-12 to our high school classes. Some of the work that we've done over the last few years has been focused on our NEASC evaluation and preparing for that, ensuring that our curriculum was all aligned to standards and a variety of different things that NEASC asks. And now our effort has been turned to ensuring that our assessment is aligned to those standards and is common across all courses in the department by all teachers. We are continuing to focus on college and career readiness. We certainly are focusing our efforts on those college preparatory courses, but we're also focusing on career readiness opportunities. As you see, likely through the media or some other successes that we've had recently, our career and technical education programs are growing. We are expanding our dual enrollment or our dual credit course offerings in the CTE areas. This year we brought an aviation and drone program here to again build off momentum that that was started at the middle grades with the partnership with the Velo. And we are proud of the efforts that we have this year that we've started, to continue to expand our career and technical and our business offerings here at the high school. We have developed new pathways when high demand occupations. I think Lisa's going to highlight a couple of those a little bit later on in the slide later on. We have a school-wide focus on literacy and numeracy skills. One of the things we're trying to break down is that idea that reading happens in language arts or history, and math happens and numeracy happens in math. I get the disruptions apparently during my part of the presentation, but thank you. No, I'm good. Yes, so one of the ideas we tried to kind of break down is this idea that literacy happens only in English and language arts and numeracy only in math. So where can we find cross-curricular opportunities for that skill set to grow in our culinary arts programs, in our automotive programs, and some of those other areas as well. I know Mr. Verderam's working hard in physical education and health on literacy with his department. We too are doing data collection walkthroughs here at the high school. We have started with our first 45-day cycle was focused on establishing a culture for learning here at the school, and now we are transitioning into our second 45-day cycle, which is focused on the instructional framework, specifically high leverage instructional strategies every lesson. We are using strategic time during our academic and collaboration time, which is part of our flex block, where teachers have an opportunity to collaborate with one another. We are placing greater focus on the analysis of student data during those meetings. We've adjusted our flex block schedule to increase the number of office hours opportunities. We listened to students and teachers, and they asked for more opportunities to have either enrichment opportunities or time where they can provide support for concepts that they might be struggling with. And we have seen increased students signing up for office hours with their teachers. We're using Panorama, which I think Ms. Villiers is going to address. We're using Panorama to drive our multi-tiered system of supports program, and our team is using that data every day to develop intervention plans for students and monitor those intervention plans. And we are continuing to tackle the chronic absenteeism here with home visits, parents' meetings. We send out attendance report cards twice a month to students and parents to, again, encourage them to be here every single day, because that matters, obviously. I think that's all I have as far as that goes.
Thank you. We know this is a lot of information, especially in a 1 hour period of time. I'm going to move through some of these next slides quickly, but I'm happy to come back and talk about the accountability system if we want to dig into this any deeper. The purpose of the Next Generation Accountability System is really to tell the story of how well a school is preparing its students for college and career, for life beyond the school system. And once students arrive at the high school, that conversation really broadens beyond just looking at the test scores as the only measure. The accountability system looks at multiple factors of district performance. And we're going to talk a little bit about what those indicators are. So it is academics measured in achievement and growth, post-secondary preparation, which includes coursework that students are taking, performance on AP or IB exams, college credits earned while students are in high school, tracking enrollment, where students and if students are enrolling in colleges, participation in testing and chronic absence, on track to graduation, which we've talked a little bit about, but we'll talk a little bit further about, and then 4-, 5-, and 6-year graduation rates, and then whether or not students are well-rounded, their physical fitness and their access to arts classes. So indicators 5 and 6 are really about different aspects of college and career readiness. So indicator 5 looks at the percentage of students in grades 11 and 12 who are participating in at least one of the following: either 2 courses that are AP or dual credit, or two CTE courses in one of the career clusters. So those are workplace courses. So if a student takes 2 culinary arts classes or 2 manufacturing classes, we get the same number of points for that as if they took a dual credit course that was going to be applied to college. Indicator 6 is the percentage of students in grades 11 and 12 achieving either college and career readiness benchmark on at least one of the following: SAT, AP, those are the ones we offer, or earning 3 or more college credits through dual credit coursework while they're in high school. And we've tried to develop these pathways and market essentially these pathways to our students, looking at what the different opportunities are that they have, whether they're looking at something like nursing as a career where they want to engage in our CTE program in health sciences and become a nurse assistant, which gives them the opportunity to work as a nursing assistant, maybe while they go to college to become a registered nurse, or say in social studies, a more traditional academic pathway where students are taking exploratory required classes in modern world history and civics, but then maybe advancing to the social studies research class, where last year you heard one of our students come and give a presentation on the documentary award that she won and went to compete in the National History Day competition in DC. And trying to feature the potential careers that some of these pathways might offer to them, where we have partnerships with colleges that award them college credit for some of those classes, and the way that they can earn their capstone credit as well. So we've tried to really link all of those elements of readiness so that students understand better what they're preparing for. And as was alluded to earlier, when we were seeing that students were not taking some of the testing as seriously as we would have liked, and in alignment with the vision of the graduate and trying to really foster that sense of goal-directed resilience in our students, we made college and career readiness a requirement for graduation. And students can achieve college and career readiness benchmark here in a number of ways. The first is meeting that benchmark on the SAT. So if they achieve that benchmark on the SAT in reading or math, or in NGSS and science, they have met that benchmark. If they are not able to do it on that test, students can take a 4th credit in science or math and earn credit for additional coursework in that area. And say that 4th credit in math might be in discrete math, or in an advanced personal finance or accounting course, where they're taking a different kind of math, which might be preparing them for different opportunities for employment. So we are really looking at alternative ways to let them demonstrate their readiness for coursework and for career outside and beyond East Haven High School. But we did make this a requirement, and we are seeing that students are attempting to persevere through this more. Grade 9 is really a crucial indicator of whether or not students are going to be successful in high school, and that is another element of the accountability system. And on track to graduation means students are earning 6 or more credits in their 9th grade year, and our percentage last year was as high as it's been since pre-pandemic. So we have been trending in the right direction every year, and we've made a lot of efforts in that area. This is also the year-over-year numbers of students that are enrolled in dual credit courses at East Haven High School. So last year we had 163 enrollments in dual credit courses. So not only is there a financial benefit to that for families, but really the bigger benefit for students is in their ability to take that credit, that dual credit course, while in a supported environment with a teacher that they've known and are comfortable with. And there's a great deal of evidence that if students have that opportunity while they're here in high school, and they think that they can be successful, and then they prove to themselves that they can be successful taking college level courses, they are more likely to enroll in college and make that jump. We've had increases in our physical fitness testing. I'm sorry, I'm moving through these quickly. I also wanted to highlight for the board that the athletic eligibility policy that was updated a few years ago, there was some concern about how our students would do in that area, and it's been remarkable that they have really risen to the occasion. We have not lost numbers in participation. We have not had students that were not eligible. We have a small number of students who have been on probation. When they are, Mr. Verdering meets with them weekly. He counsels with them. He talks to their teachers. There's a great deal of communication supporting them, and all of those students have been able to remain on teams when they've been on probation. But you can see it's a very small number. CTE course completion. We also get credit in our accountability scores for students who take 2 or more courses in those pathways. And as you can see, completers are students that take 3 or more classes in a particular area. Concentrators, students that take 2 or more classes. And we have a significant number of students that are engaging in our CTE pathways. This is an ever-growing area, and we keep adding courses. We've also been adding dual credit courses in our CTE areas, so that's another area where we continue to focus. Oh, this is Christina's slide. I didn't hide this one. So that's Christina DiCrescenzo is going to talk just a little bit about the college transition program. I just added that slide right before we came. So just to sum this up, as you can see, we have a lot of increased intentional collaboration going on 612. There's a lot of work being done with the IABs, with Smarter Balanced and SAT alignment, aligning assessments to make sure that what the information we're getting from students is helping us understand how to support them so that they can improve. Everyone on the administrative team is working together on these meeting structures where everyone is working on data meetings at the same time, collaborating at the same time, giving us opportunities for cross-curricular collaboration. And this alignment is really felt across the buildings. Goals and next steps moving forward. We really want to work on accelerating learning. Adam talked about an acceleration model in math, and this is a model that we really want to incorporate across all content areas in the middle school and high school. We understand that the older students get, we're losing opportunities, right? Time is running out for them in our schools, and so we need to accelerate every opportunity we can when students need to make up ground. And for our advanced learners, giving them as much opportunity as possible to be in the very best position that they can be to go to competitive colleges and be successful there and compete with the very best, which we know our students can do. So assessing frequently and formatively, but keeping students in front of grade level content as often as possible, not stopping to remediate for long periods of time, but stopping to provide just enough to keep students moving forward in grade level content. Refining and expanding our MTSS processes and support 612. We did adopt the Panorama Student Success Platform this year, which is giving us remarkable capability that people are really, really excited about, to be able to communicate across buildings and levels what kinds of interventions have been in place in the middle school so that the high school isn't starting from scratch, that we can see all the things that have worked for a student, all the areas where there have been concerns, and really just keep building on that over time. Building our data-driven practices, and really building a shared responsibility for all of our students. You know, it's not a special education student or a multilingual learner or a student that's in tier 2. They're all our students, and at the classroom level, all of them deserve our time and attention, and the needs that they have need to be addressed. And we're really trying to create a more unified approach by making sure that they are part of the conversation in a very inclusive way all the time. And so again, investing in those processes and practices in support of our special education and multilingual learners, providing additional professional learning for teachers to make sure that they have what they need to provide appropriate supports. Building collaboration and communication pathways, which has been an area of struggle. making sure that, teachers can meet with their grade level teams, but also meet with the support staff that are supporting students. It's difficult from a scheduling standpoint, and we need to do better there, which will allow us to maximize opportunities for support and engagement, and then expand those intentional instructional supports. So there's so much more all of us could say, I think. I don't think anyone here is short of words that we could share with you about where we want to go. But that's what we have for you tonight.
Thank you.
It's a lot. It is.
Great data analysis embedded with, some of the challenges and successes, the high points, and some things that we need to continue to work on. We appreciate the time and effort and energy that you put into highlighting it for us tonight. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Can we do as we did last time, I don't know, just a suggestion, we are over time, can we, if we have questions, maybe, not to say that everybody, I don't know how everyone thinks, but, I don't know, to be able to at least get them addressed at some point.
Whatever you need.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and doing all this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
5 minutes?
We'll take a 5.
Yes.
So that's 3:17.
call to order this evening's meeting, and let's begin with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you have roll call attendance?
Here.
Mr. Longo? Here. Mr. Hennessy?
Here.
Ms. Johnson?
Here.
Ms. Putney?
Here.
Ms. Santiago?
Here.
Ms. Vacy?
Here.
Ms. Chiarello?
Here.
Dr. DeLucia?
Here. Okay, for reports this evening, first I'd like to thank all of those that were able to attend our workshop last week on the K through 5 analysis. I thought there was a lot of great dialogue that came from it, and everyone has now, I think, a better understanding of where we're going, right? And thank you again, Adam, for that, and Lisa tonight, which we'll have questions for you in the future. I would also like to congratulate our East Haven High School Marching Band, again, for 2024 national champions. It seems like it just... Yeah, it is a trend. Other than that, I don't believe I have much. So we will just move it along to our standing committee reports. I'll start policy. We have done such a great job of updating so many of them that we've been on a little reprieve, but we'll be catching up shortly as new policy updates come from Kate.
Something that's passed, but negotiations are upcoming.
Yeah, we have, what dates, who are we scheduling right now?
We still need to schedule custodians,
That's it.
maintenance, and security.
Right, yeah. But as we stand, we're pretty good.
Athletics? All right, I just got a few things. So first of all, I mentioned last week about the boys soccer and how it was the best season in up to 20 years. Well, guess what? They made it to the second round of the CCC tournament, which is the best performance in 30 years.
Wow.
So congratulations to boys soccer. Girls swimming, as we speak, Class LL state championships are tonight. Hopefully we'll come away with something in our co-op team. Friday night is senior night and also Veterans Night at the football game. So veterans will be honored, I think, prior to the game, seniors at halftime. So that's something good. And gearing up for winter sports. And you'll see in your packet that there is a list of coaches for winter sports this year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Karen, did you want to add anything? No? Good?
I think we have anything going on right now.
Nothing current. All right. So, with that, I will turn it over to the superintendent's report.
No, there is no correspondence.
No.
Thank you. I'm going to invite Christina DiCrescenzo to come up and present. She's going to be talking about our transition program, the developments and the activities that have brought it to an enhanced level as part of our East Haven High School transition program of services. Thank you for being here and putting together your presentation.
Thank you for having me. Good evening. I'd like to highlight some key aspects of our transition program. The goal of Transition Academy is to empower our students, 18 to 22-year-olds, by helping them develop meaningful work experiences, vocational skills, and independent living skills through hands-on activities and guided practices. Each of these areas is designed to build practical skills that they will use throughout their life. They will gain confidence and independence through individualized worksite selection, which is aligned with each student's unique interests, their tasks, assignments based on their abilities, which they will be successful in, and also their independent living skills, which involve budgeting, household chores, meal planning, and cooking. So in 2021, there was only 3 job sites in the transition program, and not all of the students went out to the work sites. We have increased, that was loud enough. We've increased our work sites to 8, and having our students have a voice and really doing it on their individual interests. We've acquired ShopRite, Goodwill, Staples, Deer Run, Tags on Main, community dining, and we have our new partnership with Southern Connecticut State University. Not only do we participate in work sites outside of the school, we also partner with many, we have many opportunities in the school. So we have increased our sites from 2 to 6. We now, from 2023 to the present, we work with the HOSA, Culinary, Cafeteria, the main office, mail, the Hive, and in Pupil Services. We have many partnerships with departments in the districts and the schools. Just to highlight a few, I'd like to start with the culinary. We're excited to share an ongoing collaboration between our students and the culinary program, where students engage in hands-on activities that supports both gardening and culinary education. Could you go back to that one? Sorry. Our students are involved in the community garden with the Perfettos. They're out there every day. They're planting seeds. They're weeding. They're picking the vegetables that the Perfettos use and serve lunch every day. We do the laundry for the culinary department. They wash their aprons and chef's hats and towels. They ran the Mother's Day plant sale in the front at the high school and sold all of the plants and delivered them to staff members around the school as well. They deliver lunches for teachers and staff members through the Hive, and we were a big part of the Veterans Breakfast last week. They made individualized tic-tac-toe boards for all the veterans to take home and play at the table. We also did the centerpieces as well as decorations. A collaboration between Transition Academy and East Haven Athletic Department provides CPR and first aid training for students. It provides them their hands-on training that equips students with essential life-saving skills and training. This training will take place again this November. Students engage in this first aid and CPR, and it's guided by our certified instructor, Mark Aceto. Students who successfully do complete the training requirements, they receive a certificate, and they can also use this on their resume in the future. This initiative is a valuable opportunity for students to gain critical skills that could serve them in various situations in the future. Transition Academy is very excited that we have started our own business. It's called Exceptional Enterprises. This is a work simulation and student-led business. The students work on a business website and expand operations. They gain hands-on experience in essential areas. They are involved with everything from product development to marketing and also the online website. We have sold many things. They've made snuffle mats, which are mats that have parts of blankets and they hide dog treats in them, and we've sold many of them. They've also sold lemonade. They've done many crafts involving wreaths and holiday bouquets. You'll see Transition Academy out in the community. We were very involved in the Fall Festival. They organized all of the games. They created a trick or trunk for the students, the little kids walking around. And they also sold some of their goods. We are also involved with the Southern Connecticut State University Recreation and Leisure Program. We visited there twice last year, teaching the students that it's not only technology or things that you could play with, but there's also other things that you can do to enjoy leisure activities. On Wednesdays is a community day here, so students are in the classroom participating in those leisure activities. Through our partnership with Southern Connecticut State University, we had a meet and greet, and we met President Dr. Smith. We also have we had some bowling activities on a Saturday where we were involved with some other Transition Academy programs. And on Friday, we partnered with 6 surrounding transition programs and had a movie day. So where do they go after here? In 2022-2023, one student graduated in January, and he is employed at ShopRite today, also. In 2023, 2024, our students who graduate, one went through the employment procedure, and he is actively employed at Goodwill, and we have another student that is going to be employed at Goodwill, and one is working with an agency. And for this year, our two students, that are graduating, they have anticipated employment at Staples and Goodwill. So our partnerships are incredible. Transition Academy will continue to glow. We will grow in confidence and independence. We will learn new skills to succeed in work and life. We will own our responsibilities and achievements, and we will work hard to improve and be the best that we can be. So some other opportunities that we had, that students who didn't go through Transition Academy and chose to go post-secondary route. In 2021, 2022, we had students at Gateway Community College that participated in the CARS program and at Mitchell. And then in 2022, 2023, they were still enrolled in the program. And then we had students at the New Haven campus Workforce Development and Continuing Education program. And then in 2023, 2024, one student graduated from Mitchell College in 2024 with an associate's degree in communication, and he worked on a campus job during the previous year, and he is currently an intern at Walt Disney World.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we asked Christina to share this as part of the presentation tonight, and thought it would be better here for her to really highlight the transition program. We don't often get to see or hear about some of the projects that they're working on. Anyone that works in the school can tell you we see them everywhere, and it's just a lot of fun to have them around, and they're really engaged in the programs. Right outside our windows, Adam and I can see them out watering in the garden every day. And they're really a bright spot in our community, and we wanted to share how they too are preparing for career and college, some of them. So, great job.
How do the students get involved? How do the students get involved?
These are students that are identified as needing transition services beyond 18. Do you want to talk a little bit about?
18 to 22.
Okay.
They've completed their graduation requirements.
And then the parents are brought in and they're presented with the program.
It becomes part of their IEP.
Yeah.
And then they continue on.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that it was a continuing ed kind of
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And while some of the activities, Christina mentioned collaborating with other transition programs in other towns and coming together and doing things like bowling or going to the movies. Those are all very intentionally designed activities to build social, emotional life, and sometimes working skills so that they can live independently on their own thereafter.
It's a really impressive program in our district, and I feel like there's a lot more opportunities than other districts even. So I'm really glad that you were able to showcase that tonight.
Christine
Thank
has
you.
done a great job building the program, expanding the program, and getting kids really involved. If you look around the high school, even as these kids come up through our system, they have some of the most special and deep relationships with each other and the adults around them. It's
Being able to
super-
stay
super
integrated
touching.
in the school as well is huge after graduation.
Thank you for those questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Christina. We appreciate your
Thank you.
efforts and
Thank
expansion
you.
on this program.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Very much appreciated.
Brings us to our CLF up.
It's a tough act to follow. But I'm going to go a little out of order in here. I'm just going to go over if we can save invoices and POs to the end of my three. I think the story will tell itself better once I get to the first two. Food service is as expected at this point in time. There's an increased expense load for a transition of management staff where management staff has left, the new is onboarding. So in that interim time, they are sending over senior management to fill in, which is costing more than anticipated, which is causing that slight loss. Not much to worry about since there is a 90,000 guarantee for us at the end of the year. So even though there is a loss, there is a guarantee built in for a cushion for us. So with what is going on for these first 3 months, it's as expected and should get better as that full-time staff comes on as anticipated. The next piece is our Anthem Medical. We spoke over the summer, July and August, showing us losses of just shy of $1 million. Those are normal anticipated amounts. On the flip side, we expected to see more of an upside in the September-October timeframe. With that being said, our office has done a forecast of the medical, and we think we may be okay, but there's a chance that we are not. So based on that, on October 16th, we instituted a district-wide spending freeze. We are hoping that will allow us to get everything in line to see a successful end to our fiscal year. So as you'll see tonight, our invoice and POs are rather slim compared to prior nights. This is not limiting us in providing what we need for our students, but just an extra set of eyes is, do we really need it now, rather than can we wait to see the springtime comes when things may get better for us as our experience trends in a different direction for medical. So we are anticipating an upward trend in medical. As you see, we're showing a loss now of $990,000 in the medical fund. That is not a true loss. That is strictly a cash flow problem for us on how we have the funds available to pay those claims as they come in. We are not in any dire straits right now, but in preparing for months ahead, we wanted to get ahead of the curve and not be able to fall into an unnecessary decision-making process when the spring, summer comes along. So we have seen an upward trend financially for us in the short few weeks that we've had. We instituted the spending freeze. So we're hoping that trend continues and allows us to have level footing going forward. So with that, I will lead into any questions for POs, invoices. Yep.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
First one is about coaches.
Coaches. Yep.
I'm questioning the hockey program.
Yep.
Because they have a varsity and a JV program, and they have 3 coaches. They are the only program that only has varsity and JV with 3 coaches. I see that boys basketball has 3 coaches, but they have 3 programs, so that makes sense to me. I don't think that's fair that they have 3 coaches when all the other sports have 2 with 2 programs.
So we originally, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, I think they had 5 coaches and we cut 1 down. But we can explore that further with Mr. Bergeron.
Yeah, and Anthony and I had a quick conversation a little while ago, but, I think each sport is a little bit different, but it's hard on the coaches when there's only 2 coaches.
Agreed.
And when there's one sport that gets 3, it's not equitable. I don't think it's equitable.
I have to check on that, because I think we gave a total allocation for that based on some cuts that came to the board specific to stipends. They might have redistributed that over 4 people versus 3 people.
They didn't, because the amounts are listed here.
Okay.
It's
All
not
right.
a redistribution.
We can follow up on that.
It's a full amount. It's a full JV coach. There's 2 full JV coaches stipends and 1 head coach stipend.
We can follow up on that.
Okay. And my other question is the AAA nursing care for ACEs, $91,000. Is that for the year? It's for one-to-one nursing.
That sounds like it was covered for the year.
Are you on, what sheet are you on there?
That is,
first line.
that's for the over 7,000, POs
Yeah, so the over
7,000.
7,000, that PO page is strictly for the year.
Okay.
So when we instituted the budget freeze, we called all department heads and said, anything you anticipate
Okay.
as a necessity for the end of the year,
Okay.
enter an encumbrance now before the bill comes, so we can get a true accurate picture of where we stand for the end of the year.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that is billing for the 91 for a student that was, we didn't receive billing yet, but we know it's going to happen. So we just
Okay.
got it into the system so we can get a good, accurate
Okay.
forecast.
All right, that
That's
makes
for an
sense.
R-
That's all I
That's for
have.
an RN, Mary Ann, and that cost gets accounted for in the excess cost grant as well.
Okay. That's all I have, Ian. That's all I have.
That's it. Any other questions? Then I am good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that moves us to the accepting of meeting minutes from October 26, 2024. Barring any objections or amendments, I say we move to accept. Good. All right. That brings us to audience of citizens. I just would like to remind everyone that though we are, very much welcome comments, know that it's our policy not to respond. So don't think that we're not listening. We are. Most of us will be making notes and hopefully can get back to you when at an appropriate time. Also, due to the possibility of there being multiple speakers, we will cut the time tonight till 2 minutes per speaker. And who do we have here to speak this evening? Rob, is there anyone online?
I'll pull
Who has that? Oh, Erica has it.
Yep, I'll pull it up.
Anyone else to speak?
Hannah Pellegrino, 122 Victor Street. Good evening. My name is Hannah Pellegrino, and I have been a paraeducator at Deer Run for 6 years. I have come here along with my fellow paraeducators to take the opportunity to address the board through public comment, to express our very deep frustration with the current state of the paraeducator position in East Haven Public Schools. For quite some time now, the district has been operating with a significant shortage in para staffing. There are currently multiple open positions in many of our schools, which cannot be filled fast enough. Furthermore, it is very common for these positions to be filled and then abandoned after a very short time. The turnover is downright brutal. This has created a very difficult situation for those of us who have decided to remain. But more importantly, it has seriously impaired our ability to provide the care and support that our students deserve and need. Morale is currently very low. We have students that we care for and love, who need constant one-on-one support that we cannot attend to properly because their para has been assigned multiple students. We have newly hired paras who are sent to deal with their assignments without any training, who end up resigning within weeks and even days because they felt unsupported while being given immense responsibility, and it is all due to this shortage. And yes, this position demands incredible responsibility for those who undertake it. The education, health, and safety of each of those students we love so much is in our hands, but yet many seem to still have the impression that this is some sort of throwaway position where the turnover doesn't matter. Each year, more and more students enter our district with special needs and requirements. In the course of paras attending those needs, they encounter behaviors including, but not limited to, being screamed at, bitten, kicked, and spit on. They are one misread gesture or word away from having DCF called on them. Many are forced to take on other jobs to make ends meet, and most are not even able to qualify or afford their own health insurance. They are the first to get reprimanded or called on when something goes wrong. We cannot perform our duties under these conditions. You will not be able to fill the open positions over the long term while making people work under these conditions. We cannot serve our students efficiently under these conditions. We do not feel respected, and it is not just one or two people who feel that way, as it has been suggested. We demand change. We demand respect. That is why we are here today.
Have the 2-minute limit, so we thank you. If you'd like to leave a copy or send it via email to the board, you may do so. Electronic might be best, just so everyone gets a copy, if you have it.
Angela Catalano, 190 Borman Road. Good evening. My name's Angela, and I've been a para in East Haven for 4 years. As my fellow para was saying, we do not feel appreciated and we don't feel respected. This is why we want to share with the board a specific list of things the paras have been clamoring to help us do our job to give the students of East Haven education what they deserve. 1, we need better and more efficient training at all levels, but especially starting out as new hires. It is not reasonable for a newly hired para to be given a stack of papers, a list of modules, and 0 training, then thrown into a job without even explaining what the position entails. 2, speaking of training, let us be specific, making sure to mention that we mean paid training. It is also unreasonable to expect paras to complete live training or training modules that are required for our job to be done on our private time. We have families just like you, and we have second and in some cases third jobs because we do not make enough money. Training is part of work. You want us to work, pay us. 3, still regarding training, it has often been the case that the paras who require training for specific things like CPI training, to handle specific equipment, or to assist students with mobility issues are often met with disdain, causing para to feel that they are somehow getting in trouble for wanting to serve the students better. This is not acceptable. Also, if the request is met, it is often done in a dismissive and incomplete manner. Students deserve better, and we deserve better. 4, we need more participation in the schools we work at. We are often treated as second-class workers, and decisions are made without our input, even though they affect us directly. This is part of our work. 5, we need better pay. We recognize that the district offered a solid pay increase on our last contract negotiation, and this was done in the hopes that it would attract more people onto this job, but we are halfway through the school year, and it is safe to say that it was not enough. Starting salaries for paras need to begin around $20,000 per year and work their way up from there. It was always been the policy that the district encouraged people with college degrees and teaching certificates to apply for these positions, but why would they? Why would a college graduate take a job making less than $20,000 per year while taking up so much responsibility when they can get paid and take far less risks somewhere else? With this message, we hope that the Board of Education will begin to understand that the definite, immediate changes need to start taking place. This is the education of our children that is at stake here. No school district can provide comprehensive education services to children with special needs without a trained professional workforce providing these services in a safe and adequate work environment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. First of all, I want to say that I'm blessed to follow 2 of my colleagues and members of our executive board, Ange and Hannah. Ange is one of our vice presidents, and Hannah is our secretary. If you don't know by now, I am the proud president of the Paraeducator Union in district. It's been a long road, and I can finally say I am no longer standing alone. As you can see, my fellow paraeducators are standing with me. We will continue to stand together and fight for our students that we educate, care for, and love every day to ensure they are getting the best from us. We are stronger together and looking forward to the future. I want to say how proud I am of all of them behind me and to thank them all for their support. And we are stronger together, and we will continue to fight. Cindy Giametti, 23 Farm Meadow Road.
I don't have anybody online at this point.
Is there anyone else here who would like to speak this evening?
Hi, Morgan Blackstone, 36 Oregon Ave.
I didn't hear that. What was your name?
Can you say that again, please?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we
go. Morgan Blackstone, 36 Oregon Ave. As a parent of a child at Moglen Elementary, I'm alarmed by a recent incident involving gun violence threats on October 24th. We received an email about increased police presence from school administration, the East Haven Police Chief, and the Superintendent of East Haven Public Schools. The only information given was that police presence would be increased, but we walked our child to school the next day and picked him up. It did not see any law enforcement officers. In juxtaposition, previous sent memos regarding safety issues have included specific information. On April 5th, 2024, airsoft guns were on the bus, and there was a brief summary of the response. And on a lighter air, on November 1st of this year, that the temperature of the breakfast sandwiches was not acceptable. So it kind of falls in between that. Later I learned from a community Facebook post that a 4th grade student allegedly threatened classmates with a gun violence, a situation that may have occurred more than once over the week. This was corroborated by parents with children in that classroom, and that appropriate action was not taken until the parent involved the police directly. Still, no clear information has been provided directly to the parents, leaving us reliant on rumors instead of transparent, factual updates. Coincidentally, that 4th grade teacher, Jill Crispin, has left the position directly after this incident. I cannot speak for her, but given the circumstances, I wouldn't condemn her decision. The core issue here is the lack of communication and transparency. With the prevalence of school gun violence, we need to know that threats are being addressed thoroughly. Parents deserve reassurance that safety protocols are in place and will be informed of any incidents affecting our children's safety going forward. And I do have some emails that we sent and other parents have sent to the Board of Ed. And I can't speak for anybody else, but I do know that we received one email back to just keep that person informed of what we heard back. We didn't hear anything back. So we wanted to come here to make sure that everybody knew and it was on record that we're paying attention as parents, especially, even if our child wasn't in that classroom, we want to make sure that everybody's safe. It's not just our kid, it's everybody's kid. So, and if you'd like, I have a copy of all the emails.
Thank you.
So there's multiple copies, you all can have one. So, thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? No? Okay. That concludes our audit of citizens portion for this evening. Move on to new business. We have 6.1, discussion and possible action on the revision of policy 6148, FAFSA completion program. I believe this will bring us into compliance with the new state legislation, correct?
Yes, so the date of the graduating class was changed in the most recent legislation. It was supposed to be beginning with the graduating class of 2025, and it is now beginning with the graduating class of 2027.
Anybody have any questions or clarifiers? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve policy 6148 FAFSA completion program.
Second?
Okay. Any questions, comments? If not, roll call vote, please.
Ms. DePalma?
Yes.
Ms. DeLongo?
Yes.
Mr. Hennessy?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Putney?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Stacy?
Yes.
Ms. Torello?
Yes.
Dr. DeLucia?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Brings me to 6.2, discussion and possible action on the revision of policy 6172, alternative education programs. I believe we are also adhering to new legislation.
Yes, so basically just saying if the district has an alternative program at some point, legislation now requires regular high school students to access it for credit recovery purposes, even though they may not be formally enrolled in the alternative education program.
All right. Any questions or clarifying questions?
I'll just say a clarifying question. Adult education is not an alternative education program.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll make
motion.
I'll make a motion to approve policy 6172 alternative education program.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. DePalma?
Yes.
Ms. DeLongo?
Yes.
Mr. Hennessy?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Putney?
Yes.
Ms. Santiago?
Yes.
Mr. Stacy?
Yes.
Ms. Torello?
Yes.
Dr. DeLucia?
Yes.
9 in favor, motion carries.
That brings us to our last item for this evening, 6.3, discussion and possible action on the approval of the rental fee waiver request for the East Haven High School Co-op Marching Band and 7th Regiment Drum and Bugle Corps. I believe we've done this before. I know we've done it with drumming. Have we done?
This is the same
Oh,
program.
Regiment Drum, is it the same group?
Yes.
Yes. It
We've
just
done a
looks like the
college
dates are significantly expanded. If you look at the bottom of the document, we used to just do one weekend,
Yeah.
so this is why it's coming to the board. There's a request for 8 weekends.
Oh.
Yeah, the only thing I
One's an
didn't,
entire week, though.
oh,
My
you can't,
concern is, do we have other
So the way it's,
potential renters?
the way it's written is that these are only granted upon availability.
Okay.
Like-
but what if something happens like 3 months from now and someone wants one of those dates?
So upon
does
granting
say.
this, we would have a discussion with them to establish a time frame of like 2 months or X amount of time ahead of time would be the cutoff for an available date.
Yeah, because I would hate to lose revenue.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
And/or
Correct.
if any school-based activities or
Well, yeah, it does,
needs.
and it does. I think it does stipulate
It
that.
does, it does.
I can't remember. Are these people here overnight?
Yes.
That's what it
Yeah, but it was
specifically-
just the one weekend
So,
that time.
I believe in years past, in talking with Mr. Wolf, they used to be out of New London, I believe. It might state in here, the 7th Regiment had a home base of a school in New London, which no longer caters to this program. So last year, they were kind of piecing together the locations to hold practices along the shoreline.
Okay.
All of which were the night before or days to practice before a competition. They originally came saying they wanted to make this school their home base, and we didn't feel it was the right time to do that, so they started off with a rental waiver for events. So it is the same as last year. It is an overnight. They will pay all of our fees, but it is an overnight visit for multiple days.
Is there any way that they would be willing to maybe do a little presentation on their program?
I think I would say it's fair game to put any request back to them if.
Bigger picture of what they're doing,
Sure.
who's involved, how it benefits our students.
I just don't think it's going to matter for 8 weekends.
Well, I mean, I also think maybe there's an educational opportunity
There
for
is.
our students.
Many of our students participate in this.
It is, that's why we've always done it.
Right, no, but I mean, how much do they take part in it? And could they do and are these high school students?
But many of our band students participate in the drum
In the
corps.
drum corps.
Right, I believe he said last year was 3 that are part of the program. Doesn't sound like a lot, but considering the size of our program, it is a,
I guess my thought process was just if they're thinking about wanting us to work with them long-term in a partnership to eventually become a home base, this might be a good place to start where they can kind of present what they do, what they need, what they offer, what they receive from us.
But if we're their home base, then they're going to have priority over that space. And like Marianne said, we can't lose the revenue.
No, we
Especially
can't.
not now.
8
I'm not
weekends,
saying that
that's
I
a
think
lot.
necessarily that they should be, but I guess the whole point is it kind of, we sort of would be by honoring all of these dates.
Depends on how the motion is made. Like, you can frame the motion, upon availability as assessed by the building, the COFO, contingent upon the availability as assessed by the COFO.
I would like to see somebody from there present to us in turn for us granting this huge of a block, this huge block.
It was the band teacher last year, right, that came and
Yes.
spoke about it?
It was Steve.
Yeah, it would just be great to have somebody
I
come
agree with you. I'd like
present.
Yeah,
to hear
I know what
what
you're
this
saying.
program is and.
so we can do this. The first one is in a month, right? I would say if you're up for it, grant the waiver for the first weekend, and the rest is pending a presentation. The December 14th and 15th is available right now.
Okay.
I don't see any, the large productions do not come in until after the first of the year. I don't see anything coming in over the next couple of weeks for that week, those 2 days. So I would, at a minimum, I agree with the presentation, but I think it's here tonight because their first one is in a month.
All right, then
So-
I agree. I make a motion to accept the rental fee waiver request contingent upon the COFO's analysis of availability.
Are we going to
For
just
December
accept the first
14th,
one?
15th?
Yeah.
Well, it's,
So we have to change the motion if we're only going to accept, like, repeat one, accept one.
no, because it's going to be upon availability, so I don't think we really need
No,
to say
well, I
specifically.
think we
Well,
want to.
there's two. You can do what you said, Michelle, or you can do what RJ just suggested, was to just approve the December dates, have them come back and do a presentation, and then the remaining dates would come back to the board.
Okay, all right, we can do that.
I just question, why do we need a presentation? I'm not
How many
being
students are there?
disrespectful.
Okay, how many students
Just
are
a
there?
question. I don't need that. This has happened before. I think it happened before last year. And I think that the real deal is, we're gonna really let them, I'm never gonna say yes to 8 nights, because I don't think that's fair. Because 8 weekends, because there are a lot of things that go on that bring us revenue, and we dearly need it.
Sure.
They want.
I don't think anyone's
They're
debating
asking
that.
for free they're asking for, right here, they want us to say
Only
yes.
if
Well, if no one's in the
East
space,
Haven
no one's in
Public
the space.
Schools students and programs are first priority, then rental clients that are paying for space. If those things are not in place, then they would get the space.
But-
No one's taking funds from the
But
school.
we would have to determine, we would have to put, like, is it 30 days?
Sure.
That if they're within 30 days, if no one's booked, then they can have it? Or, I mean,
But to
I
answer
wouldn't
Kate's
want it to be
question
longer
about-
than 30
Well,
days.
Not knowing
Right, if
my
we
presentation.
did that, I would want to make it a general policy change and not just specific to this. I would say it would be for any group asking for a fee waiver, would be within 30 days unless waived by the board, right? Doesn't
I like that.
That makes sense.
Then we got to bring the,
But to
then
answer
we
the
have to
question
bring the
about why we
policy.
need a presentation, I have a lot of questions. If you guys can answer them, that's great. Maybe we don't need them.
I'm gonna put in my 2 cents of the overnight thing just kills me. There's no way, I don't know if any of you guys are thinking about the liability.
Didn't we address that last year? I thought
Yes, we did.
that was addressed as far as the liability,
It's
right?
never addressed until some hideous act happens in Warren Court.
Can I just,
But this isn't an Airbnb, this is an educational facility.
I like that, Tom.
What? I don't, what are we doing? We're a hotel now? Forget it. It's
I just
crazy.
think it grew from 2 nights to what, 8 or more? More.
8 weekends.
8 times, 8 weekends.
It's not even just weekends, there's
Again,
full
I'd like to
weeks.
bring the
It
entire
looks like there's,
policy to make that adjustment, and then we
July
can
5th through
do
13th.
whatever
That's
with
a
this.
huge-
But I think that makes sense just
Would the
going
board be
forward.
willing to just approve December and 13th and 14th since
14th
that
and
is?
15th.
I'm sorry,
I
14th.
amend
That is-
my motion
That is
to-
a month away, and then we can bring back the policy as Michelle suggested.
Yeah.
At the next December meeting.
Yep. I gotta look up that.
Okay, so I amend my motion to approve the rental fee waiver request for the EHHS Co-op Marching Band and 7th Regiment Drum and Bugle Corps for the December 14th
And
weekend.
15th, yeah.
And 15th.
I'll second that.
I have
With
mixed
future
thoughts on
dates
this one. I don't know.
pending
I do too. I'm
I'm
gonna throw
not-
out there the date that you're asking for, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit of a worrywart, and God help me for even mentioning it, but there's a lot of violence going on, and one of those dates is a date that happened 12 years ago, I believe, or maybe longer, where, Sandy Hook. I just can't help but those things pop into my head. I get a little paranoid about it, I admit it, but I know people who were involved in that, and I don't know. We got people here who aren't used to our school, who aren't used to, so I'm throwing that out. That's why.
Why do they have to do the overnight? Do we know the answer to that?
Travel.
Fun.
Yeah.
Because it's fun? Yeah, well, yeah, of course it's fun,
I
but,
think because they have people coming from all over
okay.
and traveling.
Yeah.
I just don't think we have enough
You're like the
information.
reason-
Choice. There's a lot of questions, a lot of
Well, I think we could do the one weekend as we have done in the past, and then, yes, I don't mind them coming to give a little overview.
Maybe we can all submit our questions in advance, that way they can be prepared.
I'd like to know more about what it offers our students, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd like to know how many people
Yep.
and what,
Yeah. Okay.
and what it does offer our students. We have 3 people participating, but
It may be worth requesting a certificate of insurance.
RJ, we had 3 last year. Do we know if we have anyone this year?
For,
That
the
is
students?
part of that?
Mr. Wolf will know that. I don't know right now, no.
Seems like a Q&A or a presentation would be
Maybe
appropriate.
an
Yeah.
extended invite?
Yep,
Yeah.
so I made a note to extend an invite.
Good.
There is a motion on the table at this point.
Can we clarify
For the
that motion?
Sure, it
Thank you.
was to accept the rental fee waiver request for the EHHS Co-op Marching Band and the 7th Regiment Drum and Bugle Corps for the weekend of December 14th and 15th.
Can I ask one more question? Do we have an adult here that represents those 3 students?
Yeah, Mr. Wolf is on site. He works for the regiment as well.
So he's staying,
He
right?
stays, yeah.
All
We
right.
also pay our own security staff to stay overnight.
Well, they pay.
Correct,
Do our students stay overnight with them?
yes.
They do pay for,
See, a lot of
they do pay
questions.
for maintenance and.
We have security on site, which they reimburse us for.
Do we know about how many students it is?
Students?
or how many
How many people are
Total
sleeping
number.
over?
No,
Oh, it's like a bunch.
spending
Isn't
the
it
night?
a lot?
Yeah.
It's a good amount.
It's a lot.
It's a good amount.
Like,
Like a,
where
like
do
a
they sleep? 50 or
gym.
something?
They sleep in the gym in the foyer.
I was gonna say 100. I think I remember Mr. Wolf saying about 100.
Some around
Don't
there.
quote me on
Just
that.
put-
Yeah, no,
Also-
that's what I recall, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, this might not be, do we have, so the students that are participating in it, do they sign a overnight field trip form? Is that something like their family signs that they
It's
stay here
not,
overnight?
I don't, no. So I
I
don't,
know, but why don't
Yeah, but
they?
do our kids stay?
They're staying
It's not
over.
correct.
It is.
But are
No.
our kids staying
It's not a
overnight?
school-sponsored event.
It's East Haven High School Co-op Marching Band and 7th Regiment.
it never was advertised in years past as a
Okay, well, then if
dual.
he's not gonna advertise it as that, he shouldn't put the co-op on it, and he should just put 7th Regiment.
It's just called the
You're
7th
right.
Regiment.
All right,
It's
but that's not how
called
he,
East Haven
that's
High
not
School.
how he
You're right.
presented
He
it.
presented
He's
it.
was
the
just his
band teacher with
proposal.
our students there that are staying
Maybe our
overnight with
band teacher
adults.
could
Some of them are
validate
grown
that.
adults,
You're
correct?
right, Eric.
Valid
Yeah.
point.
You presented it like it was our co-op.
No, I'm saying some of our students are staying here. What's the oldest person that's staying here? You have adults sleeping here overnight? Yeah, there should be some type of form. There still are. Yeah, no.
Run through Rafter?
Sounds like there's more questions than answers.
I know, gets me nuts. Overnight stuff kind of gets me crazy. I
Michelle,
don't know.
what
I'm
do
with
you think
Tommy
in
on that.
terms of
I
the
get
agenda
nervous.
item?
My
All right,
kids
well,
don't
we have
sleep
a
out.
motion on the table, so I'm going to put it to a vote.
Perfect.
Erica, roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. De Palma.
I'm sorry, I have to say
Ms. DeLongo.
No.
Mr. Hennessy.
No.
Ms. Johnson.
No.
Ms. Putney.
Yes.
Ms. Santiago.
No.
Mr. Stacy.
No.
Ms. Torello.
Yes.
Dr. DeLucia.
Yes.
3 yes, 4 no.
6 no.
6 no. Bob, stop whispering in my ear. Motion does not carry.
Okay. It is what it is. All right.
Can I make a comment before we go into?
Nah.
Just quickly, we all know that yesterday was Veterans Day, so I just want to commend our elementary schools and the academy for great jobs they did. Academy on the 8th honored about 25 veterans, all related to school personnel, students, in fact. Memorgwin had a great event with 4 or 5 Vietnam veterans in attendance. That all took place on Thursday. On Friday, the culinary program here and the National Honor Society honored veterans. It was a tremendous program. They did a fabulous job. We had a great time. And yesterday on the green, 2 East Haven High School students, I only have first names, Ava and DJ, played what we call echo taps, brought tears to people's eye.
Oh, wow.
They were fantastic. So I just wanted to commend all of those students
Yeah, I
and
think she shared
faculty.
it when we had a large audience.
Now,
Erica, are we getting lists of events? Because I didn't see it in the last one, because I was looking for the Veterans Day events in schools. I didn't see it.
I didn't include the Veterans Day events in my Board of Ed update, but I can have Sarah Coster put together a more extensive sheet. I can't list all of them for every single school, but I can have her put together a more extensive Excel sheet for all of those types of items.
That's
Couple-
great.
Sure.
put things out.
Well,
They
wait,
usually
wait.
do one for the holidays.
Yes,
That's
yes,
pretty
yes.
extensive.
Yeah.
Yes,
They do.
yes. 'cause
And a-
I'd
and a
like to
couple
know
of
if we
people have-
I can
can.
have you all added to every single school's parent square, but that would be
Don't do it.
No,
severely
that's all right.
overwhelming.
Don't
I
do
get
it.
parent square notifications
I'm
all
just
day,
saying,
and I
like-
love it.
I just got
but
12 just now.
I don't need
Like
one.
literally as we speak.
Yeah,
A
I
cou-
know. So I'll have her try to quell
a
some
way-
of those things and put them in one spot.
Erica, could you do like a shared doc maybe with the principals?
That
And
we
they
used to-
can
That's what we
put
do.
in
Yes.
their own activity, because I know like we get the year end of school year activities, and
Yes.
everyone plugs in their activities,
Yes.
so we know what's happening.
That's
district-wide.
exactly what I was thinking, what
So
I
that
just
would
said.
be really
Yep.
cool if they want to throw them in there, and that way
Oh,
we
just
know.
like the enrollment document, right? Just keep
Yeah.
it live.
Yeah, that
Cool.
way they
Good
can
idea.
add different things that come up, and
Yeah, I like that.
One last comment on a couple of people asked me about the academy program, and that wasn't advertised to the public because it's only veterans of students and faculty. So that one is kind of a, not that it's closed, but they honor their own
Yeah.
there. Okay?
Because it is, most of the schools aren't like for everybody to just walk in.
Well, yeah, Memorgans was any veteran, and I think,
I hope they have to be invited.
yeah.
They were invited. Oh, you scared me.
I could have grabbed some people on my way home from work to bring back if they weren't.
We're just thinking about, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, everyone, and I will see you all on December 3rd. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.